4:30 p.m. I'll call the public work committee meeting to order. Vote, please roll call.
Sagami.
Here.
Preisinger.
Here.
Hubbard.
Here.
Lopes Ferrero. Mumford.
Here.
Luis mentioned he'd be a few minutes late, so when he comes, just know that what time he arrives.
Well, you don't have to sit all the way down there if you want to.
Skip item 2, which is on top of my desk. And you introduce yourself. You are
Oh, I'm Tanya Westfall, court dates.
I'm Matt Patterson with Becker Hobby. I'm nobody.
I
wouldn't say that. Come on. You got first name or last name?
Thank you, sir.
First name, no, last name, Bob.
Any public comment? Any public comment? None? Item 5, approval 7/10/22 public work and utility committee meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? I have it. Thank you. The staff report, item 6, CRP update. Michael.
Trying to hit on its high points. Weston Avenue's coming along. Pretty much water and sewer is in from, I guess, on the west portion of this project, the west portion of the east phase here. So from Ryan Street to Progress Way, all the new water and sewer is in. The road is more or less graded out and ready for asphalt, so which probably be sometime later next week or early the following week. So before the end of the month here, that portion from Ryan Street through Progress Way will be paved. And then the contract will be working from Progress Way up to County Road J. As part of that too, we've had a discussion with Marathon County. They were looking at repaving County Road J next year. Like I said, in an effort to try to work together and minimize the intersection disturbance between this year and next year. They've asked AECOM to come up with a intersection design to, I guess, combine the two projects. We could all do it this year. So just waiting on the county to authorize that work, and we just blend that in with our project, likely within a change order that would be payable to Marathon County, or Marathon County would pay for the additional work. But
What they're gonna do for the intersection design?
really just carry it through the kind of the excavation and then putting in the geo fabric, the breaker run. The county was just gonna mill and overlay it. So
No light, nothing?
no lights or nothing like that. Just new pavement design through there.
Okay.
So I guess it could be carrying through ours, maybe changing some of the curb and gutter grades a little bit.
Was there a traffic plan or anything done to see whether or not we should put an intersection or lights at that intersection?
We didn't. We'll be adding a left turn lane as part of our project. So
Please state, customers, 432. Thank you.
we get speedy.
Never. You would do that, right?
Yes. So I guess the one change is, we'll have a left turn lane as well as kind of a straight or right lane. So for eastbound traffic.
So J has a stop sign.
Yeah, so it would still be a two-way stop sign. I guess in the future, traffic patterns change or grow. Okay, switching that up. But there's nothing on the south side of that intersection is really planned that would change just the function of it right now.
I was just curious with, having PGA and kind of developing that area, there's plans to develop that area.
Yeah, I think that'd be one once we start seeing the need for it.
I just didn't know how much PGA's placement there now, I guess, increased that traffic pattern at all, or
Yeah, I don't think it's enough to warrant.
just, that's it.
Sure. Let's see.
Anything else?
I guess we got a whole bunch of projects going.
What is the schedule?
They're, I don't wanna jinx it, but they're slightly ahead of their schedule. It was drier than, they were anticipating, so, some of the pipe work got in a lot, or quicker than they were anticipating. So,
Maybe, as far as like the schedule goes on the catch each one of these projects, would it be possible maybe at the end of your summation there, just give us like an idea, I guess percentage wise where they're at and what they're projected to be completed by,
sure.
please.
Yep, no, but yeah, so Weston Ave, X to Ryan is, or X to Ryan to J, like I said, the first phase up to Progress Way should be done, paved before the end of, August here, and then the Progress Way to J portion of it will be done, or projected to be done by early October. So they did an end of October initially, so they're looking to be up maybe about a week or two ahead of where they were, so. The final design for the Alderson to Birch is, continuing. The right-of-way plat should be finished by the end of the month. Work on right-of-way acquisition. We have in the village of Weston. Luck, I guess, to work with there. One's at the intersection, the other one slightly, or maybe a 5-foot strip just along the eastern portion of that, coming from Birch Street. We in contact with them. I could update you on East John Lake and Vine Kennel, but survey work is completed, and we're going over the preliminary design meeting next week. And similar, the other John Lake, regular John Lake, between junior high and senior high, that also has survey work completed, and reviewing that data, going over the curb ramps and sewer inlets there. The county does have an RFP out for the reconstruction of Camp Phillips in front of us here from Sternberg to Eau Claire Avenue. So those are due, I believe, at the end of this month. So we'll be going over, reviewing those. So that'll include
What are you going to do? You pave it?
likely widen it to more or less match what they have north here. To about this point at Ross, and then I guess we were a few years ago an intersection control study was done for putting a roundabout here at Ross and Camp Phillips. So that's part of the design proposal, and then I think we're still looking at maybe some other traffic calming or other measures around the elementary school. To
So
make that,
instead they're going to put the roundabout, right?
this roundabout is still in the scope of work, yes.
Is that determined or is that to be determined?
That was what the county infrastructure committee, as well as our village board, I think it was 2 years ago, we approved moving forward with that.
Okay. Is that going to be a two-way roundabout or single? Is that would take two and obviously with like that out there?
Yeah, I think
Is it two with a turn?
it's 2 with I think I'd have to look. I mean, the final design of it will be done as part of the final design too. And just conceptually though, carrying 2 lanes through on Camp Phillips and 1 through on Ross, but then yeah, probably a kind of a slip lane for.
There's not a lot of room there.
Well, so that was one of the reasons we bought this corner too.
I guess I was thinking the apartment complexes on either
Yeah,
side.
so the whole thing will have to get skewed to the east here. And kind of east.
Stay out of their
east.
property.
Yeah, so we're not going to buy the apartments, but we've got
Okay.
our lot.
You really get almost nothing from those properties.
Correct.
And it's just
It'd be a little bit by the school, and most of it's coming out of the corner we have here.
Yeah, there's not a lot of room over there on the other side.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Sale is getting started on the Schofield Ave and Mesker intersection. And then last week, Friday, we had a meeting with the DOT. I guess one of the highlights of that was, unfortunately, they pushed it back 1 more year to a 28-29 year construction. So,
Got it. They give us anything?
they just said the programming or the funding has changed, so the whole DOT project list got shifted, in central region, even, or north central, whatever it's considered.
So not gonna touch it for a good couple of years yet.
Yeah, so 2028, 2029 is now the construction years. They
Is
changed
that for business 51?
business 51,
Even 24, 25 was,
yeah.
I expect 29, 28, 29.
Yeah,
Oh. They're gonna do
I
anything,
think he's just trying to get even, he's upset, but that's it.
I was told the funding allocations changed throughout the state and the
It's
central.
the same line they gave
I know.
us, then they did the first payment on that business 51.
Yeah, so,
They spent $2 million on that, it didn't last even 5 years.
yeah,
are they gonna do any patching between now and then?
if, they said it's holding, the overlay is holding up better than they expected, and they're confident it'll last. I told them I have one trustee who I know is gonna make a comment about how this is supposed to be a 24, 25 project.
It didn't last, but it didn't work better than they expected. Just this year, we had, in the winter, we had the bump.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's gonna keep tinting in the spring.
it's already done. I mean,
Yeah, it's not gonna last 5 years.
Yeah,
I think he forgets something. That's not his money, that's taxpayer money. You gotta spend it.
yeah,
And you gotta spend it on the road we collect the tax on.
no, I hear you, I told them it's, and they asked me what I would do to the road, I said, well, it's your road, so I don't wanna be telling you what to do, but I would probably do it sooner.
If the Drosky didn't retire, probably that project was happening.
Yeah. So they've made some changes then to the agreement that we're working on. Not 100% of them, so I told them to go back and try again. So we'll see what we get
They
back.
made some changes though?
They did, yeah.
Good.
They took out a fair amount.
Was as far as like our responsibility to the,
Yeah, so they still left in some of the curb and gutter and mortar repairs. So I told them, take those out and we can probably come to an agreement.
great.
Anything that we need a lane closure for, or that we're maybe hiring a contractor to do, we shouldn't be doing.
Did they touch anything in inspection services or?
Yeah, so they took a bunch of that out.
Good, okay, good.
So,
Yeah, I think we wanted that either out or clarified, one or the other, because it was very ambiguous and it gave us a lot of responsibility, we need a lot of things, a lot of people, and it could cost a lot of money.
correct.
I'm glad they got that out of there. Thank you, Michael, good work.
Yeah, so they said they would permit it, and I'm still not sure about funding. And I said, okay, well, if you guys aren't willing to talk to me about funding, who do I need to talk to get funding for it?
I thought part of that was gonna be covered under stormwater.
So that's what they came back and said, that unless they can prove that it's a benefit to that street project, they would pay to upsize the pipe, but they wouldn't pay to treat the water. And I said, well, what if having a pond there makes it so the pipe doesn't need to be upsized? I just asked them, who do I need to contact? You guys,
Who was at the meeting?
it was me, Keith, and then three people from the DOT.
Took guys
What's that?
last time.
What about Rothschild School?
So they met with all of us separately.
Yeah, that's what the plan, I mean, no, it should be everybody together.
Yeah, and we talked then before our individual meetings and after our individual meetings. And it appears we all gave the same, information back.
So everybody agreed with 28, 29?
Well, we can't, we don't have a say or agree. I can tell them I don't agree with that. Rothschild can say we don't agree with that.
We have a representative, we got a congressman
Yeah,
sitting as a head of the,
Yeah,
transportation department.
so that's our next step. We can contact them, but I mean, yelling at the three staff members from the DOT isn't gonna change anything. They get sent down their orders from central office, and so I just asked, who do I need to contact then? Because you guys are just doing what you're told to do, so we'll follow up and see what we can change or modify. But, yeah, and we can contact Corey, or Representative Tomchek and
Yeah, Tom Chip.
Spiros, Snyder, I think those are the three that cover our area, between the Assembly and State
So I
Senate.
think we
So,
should invite them all to come to the meeting and bring the other municipality also, and we can talk about it, they can understand our concern,
Yeah.
and they can take it back to the DOT.
Can do that.
It should be sure that Mr. Ryan wants to roll it.
Yeah. We'll hold it at Rothschild.
He was in charge of the transportation.
Yeah.
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 But us,
Trust.
Yeah.
who they put in there, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask.
So put quarter in there, that's
I don't, this is junior, I don't know. I have no idea what is that.
sometime they do it, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I can talk to,
Well, I came to,
you know,
yeah, I know very well.
I know.
Yes. Well, 7-8 is continuing, that should be operational in mid-September, as long as all the electrical components ship when they say they're gonna ship. They have the special assessment resolution for the Ryan Street or Apache Lane project in the packet too, so. Unless there's anything else, then we've been talking for a few minutes.
SCADA, that's the update to the communication between.
Yeah, all the controls and communication.
And then this one down here, how they doing on,
Seven's projected to be operational in mid-September, so we're really just waiting on,
what was their cutoff date? Or
their actual contractual completion date's December 12th.
September?
December.
December.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they'll be done before the,
Yeah, it looks like, yeah, they kind of kicked it in gear there.
Yeah.
Looks good. Is the inside pretty much done?
so that's what, we're waiting on a few, electrical components
Yeah.
for the pumps and motors, so once that gets installed, they can finish up the rest. I know they didn't want to do the epoxy flooring until they're done with all the machinery and stuff
Yeah.
inside, so.
That's just the last thing.
Yeah.
Mostly
there.
But the wells are in and everything, we're just waiting for the components, so they can test it.
Yep, so I can get it pumping and operational.
Anything else, Michael?
No, I'll be done for a few minutes.
Item 7 is street operation update.
Yeah, let's see, we'll start with, Windermere Oak subdivision. American Asphalt is going to hopefully start on the surface paving on Stone Ridge Drive Wednesday. We were gonna start Tuesday, they got rained out today. So they're gonna go pave Stone Ridge Drive from Weston Avenue all the way down to Ministry starting on Wednesday. So the goal is to get the surface done on that. They get the surface done, and the only thing really left to do there would be to do the striping the center line. When they get the surface on Stone Ridge, then they're gonna jump over to Windermere Oak subdivision. You have to finish paving some streets with the asphalt over there. We were out in Executive Estates off of North Apache the last week plus. All the inlets have been looked at and repaired. Manholes and water valves have been adjusted. We did the milling on that one too along the curb line in advance of the asphalt overlays, and then we replaced 6 driveway entrance curbings out there that were bad. We did the same thing up in Windermere Oaks on Sandgate Court. That's a cul-de-sac. We replaced 3 of them too because they were, you ripped the curb out at the end of the driveway, they're busted up so bad there was no base under it. That's when we were junk. So we fixed that before the overlay. So this week, now today, we were catching up on equipment stuff and that with the rain, getting things cleaned up and organized again and worked on. Tomorrow, we're gonna go out to North Apache. There's several areas that the base is not good underneath the asphalt that's there, so we're gonna excavate that down, see what we find, add base if needed, and then base patch it with asphalt. And then that, once we're done with that, which should be hopefully this week, that American can go out there and do the asphalt overlays in Executive Estates and on North Apache. The next place we're going is Quentin Street from Ross Avenue up by Rockmiller Park. We're gonna go from Ross Avenue to the west up to Creel. That we have to mill along the edges. They did some milling out there and asphalt repair where it was rattled. But we've got like 150 feet of curb to replace on the south side. Look at the inlets, raise or adjust the manholes and water valves. Then that'll be ready for American. The guys are telling me we need to get that done before school starts because a lot of people use Clinton getting out there. So basically the plans are we get that done, which will take us into next week, I'm sure. Then we want to get going. We have areas where we're going to do asphalt patching where the asphalt raveled last winter where it's stripped off. So I've got to get a hold of American again. They were going to get us a mix that is finer than their normal fines mix. Their normal fines is 3/8 rock, 3/8 minus. I was talking to Matt Esslinger earlier this year, and they've got a mix that's got a little more sand in it. So what we're going to do is these areas, like if you would go down here to Birch Street from Ross and go to the south, you'll see on the edges where it's stripped and it's raveled. It's like that. I probably talked about this before. So I'm working on getting us a tack trailer to rent from Farter. They've got one sitting down in Clover, so we can tack it, get that mix, and then the city of Wassa's got an attachment that we used in the past that goes on the front of the skid steer. It's hydraulic wings that I open and close, so we're gonna get some of that mix. Hopefully the weather stays warm, and then we're gonna try and patch some of these areas. Then also the city of Wausau's got a paver. We're looking at getting together with them and have them do some paver patching for us on Birch Street. There's two areas by Corner Gardens Trailer Court that need to be overlaid. There's a piece down on River Pines Court that needs it, so we're just gonna try and catch everything, work with them. They'll provide a paver. Operator probably screen man will bring a roller in our trucks and haul, so we're gonna work together with them. So the goal is to try and get all this stuff done into the beginning of September. We've got the rest of August to get this done pretty much in the beginning of September, then we'll start switching into the fall and try catching up. So, Windermere Oaks and that, this, like the building and all this, it's been a lot. It takes a lot to do all the adjustment and change all that stuff, but I'm pretty proud of our guys because, like here's a picture of some of the curb that we poured ripped on the driveways up there on Sandy Park. Not a lot of them are real experienced in cement work, but we're teaching them when it's going good. They're not afraid to grab the bull by the horns to do it. So, we're starting with the hard stuff first. So that's kind of where we sit right now. Hopefully American, I believe they will get so much done, you know, and keep on moving with this stuff. So that's probably where we sit now. That's going to take us all that same month with all this stuff. And then that's about it as far as contract work. American's got the rest of the overlays to do Stone Ridge. That pretty much wrap up our contract work for this year where we have projects that were, you know, bid out for maintenance work.
Okay. Question? Tom?
Nope, I have no comment.
All right. Item 8, utility operation update.
Yeah, so we had, quite a few miscellaneous well maintenance items with pump repairs and leaks and, some communication fails. We did have PJ Cortons in, they did some tweaking to our radios to help us have some communication, some better communication back to the SCADA. We have one little problem child still over at Cary that doesn't communicate very well, but that'll be fixed once we get the big SCADA upgrade here. Our hydrant maintenance is ongoing. We have a summer help going through some of that stuff. We assisted on a couple water main taps over down Crestwood Ave for a couple duplexes. As part of this, we're also gathering our location where we want to do our valve and hydrant replacements for the year. Hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have those and we can kind of get some numbers and see how many locations we can get done. We did perform our bi-weekly EPA PFAS collections. I think I meant to try to get some data back from that. I'll reach out to them. It's on the sewer side. We had some other PLC and some dialer issues. That's been improving now that TDS has been connected to most of our stations. Had to reprogram some, but now all the calls are coming into the main line instead of my cell phone now, so that's a positive. We helped out with some jetting on some stretches for the upcoming East Gentleman project. Had a few, back issues now that we've been doing our sewer jetting, so you guys have taken care of some of that stuff. We've had a few issues that we found with our sanitary cleaning. So we're trying to relocate some of our pH probes so we can kind of see some of the questionable discharges and make sure that it's all compliant with our sewer ordinance. So trying to catch the culprits. We touched on our SCADA stuff. Number of locates and work orders coming in for you guys. Municipal well, have been in town for some well for rehab stuff. They're back in today to address some of our, we had some deficiencies noted on a previous sanitary survey through the DNR. We had to increase the height of the bench that the pump sits on, as well as some venting. With that, it's kind of timed nicely because Cary actually has a complete shutdown of their plant this week, so we won't have to have so much Rothschild water usage this week. So we'll also be switching up the discharge head on that and adding a VFD. So that work should be done by Thursday, Friday, and it should be back up and running hopefully by Monday. So that kind of coincides with Cary's going to start back up as well. So we won't have another large bill like we did earlier this year. We handled our EMOR stuff with the DNR, and as I mentioned, the sanitary jetting and the hydrant maintenance. Other project stuff, the meter pit, it's kind of been quiet. I don't think we've seen a schedule for when they're going to start. They're going to follow up with all this winter on that. I think we just got a punch list for our Trotz and Ryan street lift station projects. There's just kind of some, I guess, safety concerns and lockout stuff on some of the cabinets. We got to go through some fencing and stuff. I think that's going to kind of be on our end for our Ryan Street project. Our hydrant painting, we need to get some answers on. There's been some rating of feet.
Yeah.
So you might need to reach out and see if there's a different option, because that was awarded last year over the summer. So we need to get it taken care of. If that kind of handles it all. We did have three, we discussed it, utility operator.
Oh, yeah.
So we did interview three candidates for fifth utility operator. We did offer to Jared Huckstraw, who's currently in our parks department. Thought he's a young kid. He's ready to, he's eager to climb and work and learn. So I think he's going to be a good fit. Knows all the guys already. I think he's going to be a good hire for us. So I think he's going to kind of maybe work the summer out on the parks, kind of help them wrap up some of their stuff, and then at the same time transition with us, get in some of the summer and fall stuff that we have to do as a utility as well. I guess with that, remaining is kind of our customers added, some of our pumpage data, and that'll do it.
TDS finished their work and got to programming. Who's doing the programming?
Well, it's basically just, because we had Frontier plugged into it, and then TDS just has it in a box, so we just have to punch in. Everything was programmed to my cell phone. So I mean, programming is changing a number really.
So who's doing
What we did,
it? Oh,
yeah, our operator did that, yeah.
and then the other item was, last meeting, we talked about the Cedar Creek easement.
Yeah,
And Keith said they're gonna hire somebody to do it. Who's that? Did they hire somebody?
I don't think we've gotten down the path to decide that quite yet.
We haven't yet, but we will be talking to Cheryl Schrader with Becker Hockey. She's been working on some of the lift station easement acquisitions we had over recent years. So
You need somebody real estate.
she's that's her role there, is
So is
real
that
estate
what she
acquisition
does?
person. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, she's not an engineer. She's not.
we're gonna see something next meeting here,
Yeah, we can.
all right?
Is well 7 and 8 been tested for keepers?
We have yes, we did have, a whole panel done. I'm assuming we'll have some more testing before we put it into the distribution system, and that'll be, I'm assuming it will be on our, we've had actually reduced, since a lot of our wells, they kind of leveled off, there wasn't any fluctuation, so we had sampled all of our wells for the first and second quarter, but they're not needed for third and fourth quarter this year, any more PFAS sampling. But I guess I won't say I assume, but I would expect that we would have to have another round of sampling before the distribution system. And I guess it's safe sample, but we do have, Northern Lakes, I just talked with last week, we have been doing our own quarterly raw samples. So we will be sampling all of our wells for raw data, just for our own trending, tracking of some different stuff, chloride, sodium, different things that we want to kind of keep an eye on as well, so.
Short answer, yes, they were tested and, it's below, what the EPA recommended level would be moving forward. Those, were less than 2 parts per trillion. No, but that's the high one. Well, 7 or well 8, but yeah.
It doesn't look like another expensive system.
It shouldn't be, no. EPA was 4 parts, or essentially non-detect, but up to 4 parts is what they came up with. So, both wells should be well below that.
Is that, is the treatment?
That was with no treatment, that was just the raw water coming out.
So what about the treatment?
Those wells don't need treatment.
So the one we were working on,
So that's 3 and 4.
right,
Yep.
what happened to that? What are,
So we're still working on the final design for the iron and manganese removal for well 3, and then the PFAS removal for wells 3 and 4. So that was what we submitted the safe drinking water loan for wells 3 and 4 in June. We should be hearing back from that in October. But then we should be able to start bidding that out probably this fall or early spring.
how about the schedule? We need the schedule.
Yeah, so the main thing is we gotta find the funding. So if we have to find out about the funding, because if we have funding, then there's special, Build America and some of those specifications that you have to have in the bid documents to fulfill the DNR, grant requirements, which can increase the cost of the project. And if we don't have that, then we just bid it with, without some of those, restrictions. So, but yeah, that project is meant to be bid out yet this fall.
I'd like to have it on the agenda in the meeting, so we get an update on
Yeah, and I guess the other part too is, like, tomorrow I'm attending a webinar about, kind of some of the potential PFAS buyback, or not buyback, but, like the DuPonts, the 3Ms of the world, kind of class action lawsuits against those companies for PFAS contamination. So,
I thought it was sensitive out.
so the state, but I think individual communities can still, so I'm just attending to see what we can find out there. And then as far as the Senate or the governor's budget this past year too, for the next 2 years, there is additional funding for PFAS removal. But they haven't actually said how that's going to be administered or who's eligible for that yet. So I guess we're kind of waiting on some of those elements too, just we know what that full package looks like for availability of funds.
it. Okay,
So
question? No question. Tom, you have any question?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. Policy discussion and recommendation, item 9. What is the engineering request for proposal submitted?
So last week, or last month, I guess, essentially, we had the request for proposals out for Fuller Street reconstruction. We ended up receiving 4 proposals from Becker Hoppy, Clark Dietz, MSA, and Strand. And so I attached what we had for the RFP and some of the addendum, just to review quickly. The main, it's a street reconstruction, with then a few kind of specialty items, one being an analysis of the intersection of Schofield Ave. Our Schofield Ave corridor plan had a concept of relocating this Fuller Schofield Ave intersection to the west, so it lines up with Old Costa Lane. So as part of the design, we'll be looking at intersection control study to see if it's best suited to leave those as kind of the T intersections that are skewed, or if we're better off making a one four-way intersection at Ocosta Lane and moving Fuller over in between Weston Lanes and Aero Sports Club there. And then the other part is, as we look at our stormwater analysis for the area, this area falls within Reach 155, which is our biggest deficit drainage basin as far as phosphorus removal. So we've got some open space at Kellyland Park. And so I asked them to include an analysis of if there's a way we can either put a pond in, maybe somewhere back in the woods here, or you know, sometimes there's ways you can use the soccer field and have a sunken field where it can act as a drainage basin during rain events, so everything kind of infiltrates there versus just washing out. I guess an analysis to see if we can get some additional phosphorus removal by utilizing some of the green space we have in the park.
So that water line is still in the right of way?
Oh, this is a sewer easement line. We actually have that. This is the park property.
Right.
So this is a sewer line that goes up
Oh,
to
okay.
Saxon Avenue and serves two of those properties on the bottom of the hill there. So I guess with that,
It's still here in the part of the right of way.
it's out of the right of way on
Yeah.
village property. Yep.
It is village property, but it's still, you gotta maintain your right of way.
Yeah, so there's a utility easement through there.
Yeah.
So after reading the proposals, which were good, they're all pretty good detail. I sent out information earlier today. There's definitely you can tell that people spend a lot of time and energy putting those together and making sure that we're getting a quality proposal. Just waiting last minute, I can't find the window, I'm trying to share. So they get through them, and
That's what I was looking for.
yeah, so I didn't have this in the packet. I finished this up about noon today.
What did you do?
What was it?
What did you do?
Last week, Wednesday. So I guess, I guess that's maybe a question. When do you guys want to see? It takes a while to go through them, score them, make sure that everything meets what we're looking for. The two individuals in the room, I had their proposals up on two screens, kind of almost going paragraph to paragraph, checking off, are they covering the same scope? Do we have the right, are we truly getting apples to apples comparisons? And I think we did. Becker Happy came in, I guess, slightly lower than the other proposals. We do have, so Becker Happy's had a design of 145, Bucky's is at 163.5, MSA is at 231, and Strand was at 299.
So I'm sorry, Strand didn't break apart their design and construction.
Strand didn't provide a construction engineering cost. They're based out of Madison. They weren't sure if we'd want them to do construction engineering.
So they were just offering a design.
So that was their just strictly design cost. Yep. So our recommendation is to move forward with Becker Happy for the total of $328,100. And slightly higher score, and it's they fulfilled the scope. They're able to complete the project. They're partnering with Caddy for their intersection control studies. It's a company the city of Wausau uses. They're strictly a transportation analysis company. So
the construction cost is based on the hours you provide.
it's based on the hours I provide. I think it's a 22-week construction schedule. So it ends up being different, ends up being a little different, but this way we're at least getting proposals that are, I guess, similar. I know that was one thing in the past when we would just award a project based on design costs. There's a thought that maybe some firms were just providing a low design cost, knowing that then, on the construction engineering side, they could
Change order.
make their number a little bigger and make up for it, so.
So you have the team also,
Correct, yeah,
who's a design engineer, who's an inspector on the project,
yeah,
who's a lead engineer and all that, so.
yeah. So Matt is listed as the project manager for Becker Hoppy. Tanya is listed as the project manager for Clark Dietz. The design team for this one from Becker Hoppy is essentially the same team that they used on Birch Street last year.
How'd that go?
Went well. I don't have any issues, as I tell them. If I had issues, I probably wouldn't ask them to give us a proposal again. And that is again a unique situation where, we've got some rural section, we utilize some curb and gutter, we analyze the existing storm pond to see what can be done there, so.
What was the date for completion for this project? Was it any request for proposals that had to be completed by a certain date, or was that submitted with their bids?
Yeah, so I asked that, so this is Fuller slated as a 2025 year reconstruction. So, they have a hard date of, being able to bid this project in spring of 25. But it can be constructed in 25.
Did any of them state they'd be able to get it sooner, or is that when it's got to be?
Yeah, I mean, if we could get it maybe sooner, I mean, village-wide, I don't see us being able to build this in 24. There's a fair amount of work that goes into, making sure, we get the intersections taken care of, we look at the stormwater analysis.
So the design costs, that includes survey and everything, and
Correct.
what's that typically, a design, 3 to 6 months for something, a project that size, or? I'm not looking for a specific number, it's to be done in 25, how long the survey and everything else takes that goes into it, and then the approvals and the permits and all that can sometimes take up to 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, this one shouldn't be too bad as far as permitting. Really shouldn't have any wetland issues. We're really not doing anything different with sanitary sewer. So really our only permit is some water main upsizing, but that's pretty much an automatic.
Any preliminary thoughts on the intersection at Fuller and Schofield?
Like what it would look like, or like I said, our Schofield Ave corridor plan had a concept of moving that over to make it equal with Old Costa Lane.
And we don't want to put a light on that. Have we talked about putting a light on that?
Yeah, I guess that would come as part of the warrant analysis of it. Does it need a roundabout? Does it need traffic signals? Does it just stay as a two-way stop until traffic gets a little higher on it?
This one has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It kind of a big.
Yeah, so that's all part of that's part of what they need to do is
So that would
look
be part
at
of the
that.
design process,
Yeah.
traffic study and everything else that goes into the recommendations, what needs to go there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can see it's a challenge.
yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, so traffic counts will be done probably this October, once school's in session, kind of get a good feel for how that operates and,
For 8 months out of the year.
yeah. That's generally the highest traffic
Yeah.
volume, especially if people getting out to the middle school and coming back. So, yeah, I mean, once that's done, then, probably a couple months for review and have kind of that initial kick at it probably in February, March of 24.
And any thoughts on, right now it's open-ended, so there's any curve in the other on both sides, or a walking path, or sidewalks?
Yeah, I guess I generally stated, probably in the Schofield Ave to like the Mountain Bay Trail area. That's maybe more of a spot where a path makes more sense. Just because we do have truck traffic, we're going to have, if you have a path, you can generally shift the road over further and have maybe more of a terrace area between the path. Once you have sidewalk, and you do kind of have to, if you have sidewalk on both sides, the road generally is centered then in the middle of the roadway, so it's equal distance on either side. So we have, the garbage trucks, there's still other industrial users, and then got styrene products, and I'm blanking on what the other one is, right? Saxon. Yeah. So, and they're talking about adding on and kind of, making more of their site and having more trucking volume. I talked to them
Are
2
we,
months ago, but,
are we thinking curb and gutter and sidewalks on that road, widening it at least, or?
yeah, at least for that initial portion until maybe about Rogan Lane, Kellyland Park area. And then as we get through the residential area, maybe shorten it back up, so.
So you're gonna have two different design, pavement design.
Yeah, so there's a truck pavement design part of the scope and then it's a non-truck portion of the road.
Residential area.
You got the walking path right now on Ross,
Yeah.
but then you're gonna go to sleep at the sidewalk.
Well, I guess that's a question for you guys to have as we, it's part of the RFP too, is to discuss that with the Public Works Committee as we start getting through a survey and seeing what the right-of-way requirements would be. As we go through a residential neighborhood, are we okay with letting the path be on one side of the road and, if somebody wants to use it, they have to cross the street, or do we want the kind of the dual sidewalk until you get to a certain point and, if you get to Ross, you can then, I guess ideally someday we'd probably change Ross Avenue even, not have it so it's just a white line.
Yeah, this path right now, all the way
Yeah.
across, all the way up the river.
Yeah.
Michael,
Yeah.
were you going to have a path, that whole stretch, or you're talking maybe sidewalk both sides? 'Cause I think you definitely need a path from, down by Arrow there on that intersection, Schofield Ave to Rogan, just because of the bike traffic that goes down to the dog park.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's actually somewhere in here.
I thought, so I don't.
Yeah. You probably looked at the RFP too. Yeah, so one of the questions I was asked was, does the village have a preference? And I said, I don't necessarily have a preference, but likely makes sense to split the pedestrian combinations up around Moyer Ave, Roman Lane area, where the north is more residential, probably more well suited for sidewalk. The area south of that is more industrial, which is better suited for a path. So
Yeah.
we want to change that as we go through it and start looking at it. A 10-foot path or 2 5-foot sidewalks is kind of the same footprint. It's just a matter of, like I said, if you have a path on one side, you can kind of skew the road. It doesn't have to be centered, whereas if you have sidewalk, generally
I think we
centered.
should put the bicycles on the road.
Yeah, so that's the other part.
Yeah, this is, they are another motorist on the road.
Yeah.
So they should be on the road and the sidewalk should be sidewalk, that's it.
Yeah, so I mean, that's the other part too, for typical section. So we'd be looking at probably about a pavement width of 30 to 32 feet, so.
That's a pretty busy road.
Yeah, but, so I mean, if you got a 15 feet of lane, you can have an 11-foot lane and a 4-foot bike lane.
Yeah.
Which is, I think on Bird Street, we went 11 and 3, with 2 14-foot lanes, so.
But the one thing I didn't see in the proposal was, maybe I missed that, who's gonna do negotiation with the Arrow?
So that's up to us. So I didn't include that in their scope, because, if the traffic study comes back and says you don't need to do anything there, I guess we don't need to do anything there.
Well, no, there's something else to be there, because that intersection right now, when you sit in the driver sitting at the intersection,
Yeah.
he has a difficult time to see what's coming from the east side.
Yeah, okay, so I should rephrase that. The scope of what that looks like, what I didn't think was something I could easily explain to make it so everyone knew what they'd be doing. So there's the difference of, are we buying, a corridor through their property, or are we looking at a triangle to try to straighten it out?
So I think that process should start right away.
Yep.
Because it may not be just easy to really talk about.
Yeah, no, I don't anticipate it to be easy. It may be coming
That's
over.
their right, that's their property and that's their business.
Yep, and it may be, if it stays as is, maybe this road comes out here and tries to square it up better, to the east instead of,
Whose property is on the east side?
it's a relationship to the,
Bar owner.
bar owner.
So they own both sides of the road.
They do, yeah.
That's great for us.
Yeah. I mean, so no matter what, we're gonna have something, it's just
Yeah.
without knowing what the recommendation is gonna be.
Has there been any conversation? Do they have any idea we're about to work on that?
We've talked to them preliminarily, just saying, hey, we're, you know, when the corridor plan came out,
Well,
I think that should be in the closed session.
yeah, we wouldn't do that in open session with anyone.
yeah, of course, but I mean, they were receptive. I mean, they've got to understand that's kind of a bad intersection.
There's kind of a, when you get to that point, let us know. And,
They can throw you out the door and.
yeah.
You want to put it on the board as a closed session to discuss it?
I don't know if we need to discuss that until we actually know what we're looking at. I mean, probably 4 or 5 months from now, yes. I don't know if that's something.
As soon as we go with Becker Hockey, I think when they do the 30% design done, they should bring it in and we can
Correct.
talk about it.
Yeah, and that'd be the kind of the timeline I'm thinking of is, you know, get the intersection studies done this
Yeah.
fall.
Once you have the traffic and the survey and everything else
Yeah.
done, I mean, we're gonna need to know that. It's gonna be part of the conversation.
Correct.
Any other question? What's your wish?
I'll wish that something.
I move to approve, or I move to recommend Becker Hobby for the engineering services for the Fuller Street reconstruction project
Is there a second?
for a cost of $328,100.
Also,
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Item 10, resolution 2023-014, final resolution for the Ryan Street / Apache Lane utility looping project.
This is the final resolution, Apache Lane Utility Connection Project. Overall, the water and sewer were bored underneath the Eau Claire River at Ryan Street, which then connected to Trotzer Lane on the north side, and then ran up Apache to North Apache, where then the water system was looped for that second crossing of the Eau Claire River. As part of that, we went past the 23 residential properties, which then are being assessed a sanitary sewer and water system improvement assessment, along with a driveway approach assessment based on if they had an asphalt driveway or concrete driveway. The table here is the we have the calculated final assessment rate, the preliminary rate, and then for our ordinance we bill the lesser of the two. So for the most part, it was the preliminary rate, except the water laterals ended up being less than the preliminary rate. So the water assessments just over $10,000 per lot. Sewer ends up being just over $8,000 for a total of $18,178.21 per lot. And we do have the incentive payment for early connection within the first 10 years, where the sanitary sewer portion is discounted 25% if they connect in year 1, and then that rolls to a 2.5% less every year until year 10, when the assessment for sewer ends up being 100%. Those are all consistent with what we had in the original preliminary assessment. That was in 2021, I think, is when we passed that. So.
Isn't that blacktop too cheap? Should go back to it? What is it, $2.82 per square foot?
Yeah, so that was the preliminary calculation. With final true cost it was $413, but our
Double almost, huh?
yeah, well, not quite.
Cheap oil price.
That was kind of
Because if it is that cheap, why not put a few square foot?
yeah. Well, that was the price we had for like the Crestwood project and the Weston School that way. Well, so I think use similar prices from those, and we put that estimate together. Yeah. Some years asphalt's high, some years asphalt's low.
Well, that's a great price. I don't.
That was it would have been a good price.
You're not gonna do it for that price, I know that. So,
Yeah. Yes, no, but we did have projects that were at that price, right around that time frame. Well, then, I guess, I don't know if you guys have any questions, but, otherwise, it's the standard, I guess, assessment language. What we'd be doing, we'd be deferring assessment, for water and sewer until time of connection, which would either be at the sale of property or fail of an existing system or after 20 years. And then the driveway ones would be assessed right away though. Those wouldn't be deferred.
Good question. What's your wish?
Move to recommend the village board approve resolution 2023-014, levying special assessments for driveway approaches, sanitary sewer main and water main infrastructure for the Apache Land Utility Extension Project.
Okay.
For a second, Ian? Have that? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you very much. Item 11. Your number 7 and 8 change on number 5. Is that one deduction, right?
Yes, this is a deduction of $804. So, we had the addition of 2 conduits for the fiber optic feed. Those were, that was kind of a, but it was either going to be included in the scope of work for the SCADA project, which is where it was initially, but we thought the SCADA project was going to be further along than it was. So we ended up having them do it as part of the well house project so that we wouldn't have to dig up the driveway that got built. So we ended up removing that from the SCADA project, but then it was in addition to this project for $2,345. And then we removed some of the landscaping requirements around the pump house. I think it was here we talked about some of the stormwater changes.
Yeah, that's a big number for mobilization, landscaping, and something else. Oh no, I think I'm mixing it up.
Yeah, so they initially gave us a big number for the stormwater stuff. We told them don't worry about it. We'll do the final grading. So as part of the landscaping, we told them don't worry about doing that either. We'll take care of that as the village later. So this was just a removal of their costs for, I guess, some of the landscaping rework. They had some initial regrading that they had started before we told them to stop. Oh no, the regrading was for the parking lot. We had to change some of the grades there just to remove some of the ponding. There's kind of a steep grade coming right off the driveway. So they had some regrading initially they had a remobilization with that. But otherwise, so I mean, it was just some loader, skid steer, trucking costs, but then the removal of their landscaping work around the pump house for that reduction of $3,149.
Okay,
So overall, it's a reduction of $804 for the contract.
what's your wish?
I move to recommend the village board approve change order number 5 for a project deduct of $804.
I'll second.
Tom, your second?
Yes.
Great. Question? All in favor, but signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Item 12. Weston Utility Operation Standard Operating Procedure.
All right.
So it's not a final product, as you can tell, but we did kind of get together with all our guys, and it's just kind of a peek at what we're hoping to have, kind of mirroring what the streets has already kind of gotten through. So we just kind of have a template, kind of what we're shooting for. for all of our SOPs. We sat down, the list got quite a bit bigger than we anticipated it would be. And, so, with adding the fifth operator, I think it's going to be a good time to give our current operators a little refresher as we go through these. And then, give a good chance for Jared when he's on board here to kind of learn as we go through with these. We have some other ideas of, we'd like to kind of attach some pictures with some of this stuff. We'd like to maybe do some video, some YouTube video type things too, as you go through a well house inspection, what we're all looking for. It's just some of the finer things where, the guys start spouting off what they do at these spots, but then when you get there and they show you what they're doing, it's like, well, what did you do right there? You didn't say what you did right for. So I think it's going to be something that we're going to have to work on over the next coming months and kind of have a living, breathing thing, but it's going to take some time to kind of take some of our handwritten notes and some of the knowledge you guys have for all these 34 so far listed items that we think we need to create. But it's just kind of a little sneak peek at what we want to do. It's not there yet, but it's in the works.
Is it going to be handbook or like a book?
Yeah, eventually we'd like to have it, as a handbook with, some descriptions within it, access, all the guys have their tablets with them in the field. So if they get somewhere, have a question, some scenarios pop up they haven't seen in 5 years, maybe we can have it as a little refresher to pop back and open up their book or have a video of something that we've done. So there's just a lot, just the vac truck itself, there's, they can sewer jet with it, they can vac with it, you can, hydro excavate with it. So it's, just, when we started talking through some of the things where it doesn't seem like there's a lot of things, but every thing has multiple options that you can do with a lot of this stuff. And each individual well is different, and each lift station can be different, and so it's not much here, but there's a lot that needs to be done here. So we're gonna hopefully over some of our downtime when that comes.
So for each item we have here, let's say fixing a pump, you're going to have the procedure for it, or?
Yeah, so hopefully we have something kind of like this meter change up one where we have kind of step by step through kind of the equipment you need to do it, the tools needed, materials, personnel, PPE. So, and the streets has a good catalog that we've kind of trying to mimic. So, but even with the meter change out, it's just a lot of steps for just changing the meter. So it's kind of daunting to think what we're going to create. Do we want to create a 5-page SOP to do a meter check or a well check, with a video or just kind of more detailed stuff kind of be left off and just kind of, if you need to go do something, like what do we want it to look like? Do we want it to be a manual that's 500 pages, which would be nice? Yeah. So,
and even just like, like a pre and post, like, this is just something you're going to bring with you. So it's kind of, if you want to, whatever it is, vehicle that you need ideal to the situation, what you're going to need to bring with you, and then a checklist when you're leaving the site or whatever after you're, great. It's a good start. Thank you.
I think that's a good start, yes.
Where's yours, Michael?
Other question on that?
No, this one's Josh's to do. I worked with Dan to get the street side done, so bring those in this is what we got.
Oh yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, between the state specs and everything, DOT.
I think it make the guy's life easier. If there's a question, they know where to go and instead of searching all over.
And that was the goal. I mean, even as we talk to the operators here, everybody kind of poo-poos it to a certain extent, and you go, well, it's not meant so that, an airline pilot, you go fly a plane, but there is a manual in every plane that generally says, if you're going down, do maybe this and you can save it, so I guess, that's really what we're trying to get at is, somebody's not necessarily gonna be able to read this once and be like, oh yeah, I know how to do your job, but it's a good reference point of, I'm learning how to do this, here's the steps, or like Josh said, sometimes something doesn't happen for 3-4 years and the guys are all calling each other being like, hey, remember when the business park lift station, went a little funky, what do we do there? everyone's trying, scratching their heads trying to remember, now we have something that says, hey, remember, if the pump, kind of seizes up, check to make sure, this wire is connected the right way or something.
Yeah.
So,
And I've seen like even single page references too, that they just throw in the trucks for, it'll work 98% of the time.
Yeah.
You got like basically a checklist, before you leave, this is what you want to grab. And then just checklist, and then you flip it over, like, this is typically what happens, I come into, and these things can be laminated and just thrown in the trucks for.
Yeah, and that's the main thing for the street stuff, was
Yeah.
just making sure, what equipment do we need, what materials, do we have everything that, so we don't get outside on site, all of a sudden see people are standing still because one guy forgot a drill or a saw somewhere.
There's nothing worse than that, showing up and realize you don't have what you need.
Yeah.
They'll just kill your time.
All right, anything else?
Thank you.
No, that's it.
So you're gonna keep working on that, right?
We will all keep working on it. Yes.
All right, how long is it gonna take to?
I mean, it'll be a bit. I mean, days like today, I kind of started, creating kind of the template sheets for some of them. And, as Jared gets on board, it'd be nice to sit down with myself, one of the operators, and Jared, just kind of discuss through it and then go into a location and kind of show what steps are doing what at the spot. So it'll take some time, but, hopefully.
Well, you don't have to wait to finish the whole thing. You
Right.
can finish a section.
Well, I think we'll hit,
And then,
we'll probably start with our well site visits, our lift station visits, some of the main ones, but, some of the, what's one that's not important, I guess, but we'll prioritize.
it's not
some.
that important, but
Yeah.
it's maybe
We'll prioritize
easier to
one.
manage it,
Yeah.
easier to handle it.
Yeah.
I did have one question though. When this is done, is it going to be a controlled, like internal document? There's not going to be like a copy of this online somewhere, right?
Ours are not. Ours are not.
Okay, good. Well, and then my only concern there, obviously, you're dealing with the infrastructure, you're dealing with the water, you're dealing with the pumps, you're dealing with all this stuff. And we're going to include electrical schematics, mechanicals, everything in there. As a reference guide, anybody that might be out there on the sites, just as a security precaution. Once this thing is done, it's on some kind of internal server. It's not.
I mean, I have found some good ideas from other communities.
Okay, yeah, good. I think it's, we got 15,000+ people here.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of industrial that we serve. I mean, it wouldn't be a good idea for somebody to be able to just hop online from anywhere and try to figure out how to mess with our wells or, anything else really for that matter.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find most stuff anyway, but let's just not advertise it.
Yeah.
So, but no, it's great. It's a good start. So let's just keep it on the agenda every month and just keep pumping away there. Sure.
Maybe there should be another item on the agenda every month to talk about and see how far you are, what you're doing. Maybe we can contribute to.
1 month, we've done 3 years.
All right, thank you. Item 15. County Road X, intersection improvement at the Schofield Avenue and Weston Avenue discussion. Michael, so you want me to start?
You can take this one away.
I had discussion with President Maloney, and we talked the intersection of Camp Phillips and Weston Avenue can use the roundabout, and also at the Schofield Avenue and Camp Phillips, that can also use the roundabout. And we thought maybe we can start the procedure. If we want to do this project, it has to be done before the TIF district gets closed. Because if we don't, I don't think that's gonna happen. Now, Schofield Avenue and Camp Phillips is gonna be a little bit more complicated. And especially because of utility on the southeast corner of that intersection. But it's not impossible, I think it can be done. It's going to take you some doing in that intersection. I think the way Michael put the price together, he estimated 1.2 million to 1.5.
Yeah, so that was based off of just recent roundabout studies we've had. So what was that? It was Mester and Schofield Ave, And then also Ross and Schofield Ave and Ryan, Schofield Ave, or Ross and Camp Phillips here, so that was what, about 1.4 million. And 1.3 over at Mester and Schofield Ave, so somewhere in that general vicinity. I guess I didn't have the time to necessarily do a quantity takeoff. This was an exhibit that JSD had actually put together, and we were looking at the Camp Phillips Center project and looking at what the impacts that would have had to the rest of the Camp Phillips corridor.
Yeah.
So this was just kind of a concept initially of what, you know, that would look like at that corner, where, you know, just,
All the station is there.
yeah, you know, so the gas station has a little bit, perhaps there's an option.
Sure.
Yeah, or maybe there's a way to shift this to the west. I know there's, you know, this is kind of a steep drop off here, but maybe there's a way to move it west, you know, 10, 15 feet, and, you know, maybe takes a little more out of the northwest corner here, but,
Yeah.
you know, so there's, you know, so there's probably some fine tuning. This was more a concept back in, what it was 2016, something like that.
Is the county willing at all to share costs with this?
So we haven't gotten to that point yet. I guess this was
Even like just having a discussion with the infrastructure committee or?
yeah, we would do that. I guess if this was something.
We have to.
Yeah.
That's the road. They
Yeah.
have the road, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to discuss it with them. Although these are going to be split because Camp Phillips is theirs, Weston Avenue is ours, the Schofield is ours, again, Camp Phillips is theirs. So it should be, yeah, there will be discussion with them.
Yeah.
But I think we should start the process. And those numbers, what you put together, I think that's great, but that's estimated, it could be varied based on the condition of those intersections.
Yeah.
So I think we should recommend it to the board for their discussion also. They can discuss it at the board level.
And I guess just so our TIF expenditure period, I believe is May of or March of 2026. I think at that point you need to get funds either spent or earmarked for a specific project. And any final expenditure would be no later than 2031. So.
So what are we looking for here then to get the move to recommend it to the board to start the design process or?
So discussion on the design process was.
All right, I'll move to recommend the board for discussion and design purposes.
Is there a second?
Oh, sorry.
Any discussion?
The only thing I would just add is, I mean, Weston and Exeter is relatively simple. I just think we should be very, very considerate of the property on the southeast corner there. They're a very important business to the neighborhood there. And I mean, obviously just with that design, and I know it could change a lot, that would have a pretty big impact on their property. Obviously it would make things much safer coming in and out of there. But just as that process goes along, I think we should be very aware of that. So,
I think the one problem at that intersection is right there where the motor station is, there's no turn lane.
mm-hmm.
And that is slow down the traffic significantly.
Yep.
You're waiting for a car to go straight.
Yes.
but it won't go.
Yeah, if everyone had to take your car and put it check it in the air.
My kids always put their hands up.
But you're correct. It impact that property, but at the same time, I think it make it easier to get that property also.
That's tough getting out of there sometimes.
Yeah, so that's something where there's a way to kind of shift that whole thing kind of northwest. And then it reduces the impact on that pump area. And,
Even northeast.
yeah,
It's not used for anything anymore.
yeah,
I mean, yeah, the northeast on that, I don't know.
For the tents on Saturday.
yeah. So maybe crunches in a little bit on the farmer's market area, but not,
And maybe I mean, we've had discussions too, because we've got more people that are trying to get into the farmer's market area and it's so packed, it's so tight, it's so tough getting in and out of there. I mean, there's been discussions about possibly moving where that farmer's market's gonna be. I mean, if we're gonna, what I'm trying to say is there's not a lot of room there to be begin with,
Yeah,
you know, and it's already packed.
but I don't think we even necessarily be taking away stalls. I think it'd just be reducing that buffer between the traveled way and where the stalls are.
Yeah, it's tight. But yeah, we'll see what the design, but I agree with Louis, like that. We want to make a minimal impact to that business on either side, actually, as
Yeah.
possible.
Okay. Did you vote? We didn't vote on it.
No, that was discussion.
Yeah,
You guys voted on
all
that.
in favor?
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Tom,
Nope, I'm in agreement.
all in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? I have it. Thank you.
Good job on that, Michael.
Item 14, salt shed change order. Michael?
Yeah, so, had a meeting with the SD Allenbecker and Structures Unlimited last week. They're looking to get their structural plans approved. There was a concern that the precast T-wall panels were not going to be a viable option due to some of the lateral loads of the salt pile. So they're looking at other options of how to make that wall kind of pass the structural tests. So they have proposed utilizing a precast block, so 2 by 2 by 6 foot blocks, kind of similar to what we have for the bins out at Ryan Street.
Yeah.
So, and those would all be kind of welded together and then anchored into the asphalt. So, form one solid wall would be 4 high on the kind of inside, and then 3 high or 6 feet tall on the outside, kind of a little rendering. So you have an extra kind of wall bracing that where the anchor of the fabric and the steel structure would be.
So those, they interlock with each other.
They interlock with each other.
Do you use rods or anything like that to pin them when they're done? Or do they seal them, or what do they do to keep them from falling at all?
They said all blocks would be strapped together with galvanized metal straps, steel angles, and connected for the structural engineer's requirements.
Okay.
Any other question for Michael?
That's just deduct the
It'd be a
14,000
deduct of
going.
14,000 to go that route.
Okay. And it'll have the engineer stamp and everything for it to take that lateral load.
Correct.
Are those going to be outstanding?
As long as we approve a foundation, yes, they will be. They weren't going to be starting until the middle of August anyways, because they ordered this.
In the middle of August.
We are now, yeah. But I'm saying their original plan wasn't to start until now because they had to order the steel building or the steel structure. So they placed that order, I want to say back in June. So I believe all those parts should be in by the end of August here. So they just want to be able to get their foundation done before the end of August, and then the steel guys would come in and early September, right away in September, get the structure up and should be ready to house salt in October. Just the deadline would be able to. And yeah,
Question,
we'll get
questions?
I'll move to recommend the accept change order request number 1 for deduct of 14,000 for.
I didn't have a cover sheet on it, sorry.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
I came in late.
For the salt shed.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Opposed? I have it. Thank you. Future item. Tom, did you vote?
He did,
Yes.
yes, I did.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Next meeting dates, Monday, September 11, 2023 at 14 p.m. That's a regular meeting. Item B, Monday, October 9th, 2023 at 14 p.m. That's also a regular meeting. Item 16, topic for future meeting. Anything? Remark for, I'm sorry. Remark for administrator. Mr. Dora was missing today. What happened?
He's online, he's listening.
You didn't say a word. Okay,
The topic for future meeting as we change, do we have a follow for that, once they reach the 30% design phase for the Fuller Street?
yes,
And that's a requirement too in the proposal,
It is, okay.
that they need to come back and discuss that with us.
so I saw the schedule, you talk about the schedule, but
Oh,
I didn't see a schedule. When is the 30% done?
maybe 2 seconds. I had it open up.
Sorry, Michael.
Sorry,
No, it's
sorry,
fine.
actually.
That's our job, make it difficult.
So they have their intersection study to complete by December. Looking to have a public information meeting in January with 30% in March. That's their
That's
schedule.
too late, isn't it? Oh, 6 months almost.
Well, so I guess we could ask for it sooner. I guess the thought was,
Yes.
my thought was we'd have the public information meeting, you know, with the neighborhood, get their input. So I guess maybe somewhere in that time frame of the public information meeting in January, you know, maybe at the February meeting, we discuss, you know, what was the neighborhood's concerns or feedback, and where are we at then?
It's gonna need a lot of time.
Well,
Which way
here's the
that
thing.
So there's two different things. I mean, there's the intersection study. So I guess that was my question. I guess maybe I missed that. So you're talking the intersection study part of it, or the like sidewalk, multi-use path component?
No, intersection because,
Okay, so that we can do in like January.
well, here's the thing. That issue with the property,
Mhm.
it may take 2 or 3 years or maybe longer. Depend how it goes. So if everybody agree and everything going nice, yeah.
Yeah.
But if somebody don't agree with that, that project will be a long-term project.
Okay, yeah, so the intersection study should be done by mid-December. They have December 15th right now on their schedule.
Okay,
So we can talk about that in January.
all right.
I know it's a critical.
Yeah.
You want to talk to them, let them know?
Yeah, if the board approves their contract, I'm pretty much, that's the schedule that we'll need to work off of, so.
All right. Item 18. Remarks from staff, Michael?
I'm good. Lot going on.
All right. Remark from committee members.
Nothing.
Chris? Okay. I don't have any announcement. I'll accept the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I
Opposed? I have it. Thank you very much.